Hello, I'm in Parliament this evening after the debate on the terrible situation in Afghanistan. We heard so many moving speeches. There were so many speakers that had put in today. Unfortunately, not everybody got the opportunity to read out or say their speech, and I was one of them. So I just wanted to do a little video to let my constituents know what I wanted to say and what I'll be pressing the government to do. Firstly, I want to associate myself with the comments made by many honourable members across the House today in honouring all those who served in Afghanistan and make sure that they receive the support they deserve from government now. I also wanted to read out a quote from one of my constituents. "My family, wife and kids are in the Kabul airport. It is the only safe place to relocate my family. I don't know what to do. My family are going to die. I am begging you, please do something." My constituent said this to me on Monday. He fled Afghanistan in early 2020 after an ambush by the Taliban. He claimed asylum in the UK over a year and a half ago and still hasn't received a decision. As a result, he's a person without status and he's unable to sponsor family members. So his family remain at the airport, desperate, frightened, and he's beside himself. Now, sadly today, we heard very little from the government to provide the assurances my constituent needs that his family would receive urgent safe passage. So firstly, I'll be imploring the Home Secretary to make a special change to asylum rules urgently to expand refugee family reunion and ensure that people like my constituent's wife and children are able to join loved ones in the UK via safe and legal routes. Secondly, as requested by the Refugee Council, the government must commit to a far more urgent and adequate emergency refugee resettlement programme for those fleeing persecution in Afghanistan, with long-term integration and support as was provided by the Syrian-focused Vulnerable Persons Resettlement Scheme. The government's announcements so far might be slightly welcome, but they certainly don't go far enough. In fact, they are woeful and will leave thousands at risk over the years to come. Thirdly, those Afghans who assisted the UK government are in particular danger, but access to the so-called Afghan interpreters scheme is far too limited. It leaves many ineligible and at extreme risk. The terms of this scheme must be urgently reviewed to ensure that those who need it are able to access it. And finally, as the Taliban have taken control of towns and cities across Afghanistan, there has been a consequential and rapid escalation of violence and threats towards journalists. Media outlets have been forcibly closed down or taken over by the Taliban, and many staff have had to flee or are in hiding. On Monday, the National Union of Journalists learned that Taliban forces were making house-to-house searches in Kabul. 3 journalists were detained, and the future and fate of over 100 BBC staff in Kabul is currently in question. Now, the government must therefore provide immediate visas for all BBC staff and family dependents, and they must use military transfer support to facilitate flights out of the country in light of the suspension of civilian flights, and the government must work with other nations to ensure safe passage for all other journalists and media workers in Afghanistan. It's clear that we have a moral duty to evacuate all people at risk from Afghanistan before it's too late. And frankly, anything less than that from our government is a shameful dereliction of duty.